Today I'm going to teach you guys how to build a website bigger, better, faster, and more accurate, most importantly, than you typically are able to with prompt engineering. This is the new wave. It's called context engineering. This is something that I naturally started doing on my own because if you've done a lot with prompt engineering, you basically have probably had this experience of diminishing returns, where at first, the prompt or the AI agent that you're using, if it's Claude, if it's Gemini, it throws together like an amazing looking website, and you're like, wow, that's awesome. I'm a genius. And then you start to realize that it's not talking to your SQL, it's not talking to your environment variables. Nothing's really working cohesively anymore. So I've come up with a solution that I use. I use this method exactly. I'm going to share it with you. It's really good. So let's just get into it. Okay, first, if you guys don't know, I use Cursor to code everything. Okay, so I don't use Bolt. I don't use one of those online platforms. I like Cursor. I'm a developer. I don't think it's too difficult for you to learn if you are new to programming. Definitely suggest you use Cursor, and the model we're going to use is always Claude for Sonnet. So let's open that up, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. I have Cursor open, and I have my new chat window right here. This is my base directory that I code everything in. It's Pro here, so I've been doing that forever. What I'm going to do is so crazy. I'm going to take this chat window and I'm going to swing it all the way over so that we're mostly just talking to the bot. Now, this is the first prompt, and it's very important. Don't code anything yet. Okay, now we're going to start talking to our agent just like this, and we're going to basically map out an entire plan for our project involving like our complete tech stack, what we want our UI to look like, our design elements, our CSS, our security, our databases, a schema for our environment and variables. And in this way, we're going to get everything, every question answered, and then we're going to say, okay, do it. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what that looks like right now. There's one more thing that we have to do first, and that's come up with something to code, honestly, which is kind of funny because we need a project, and I don't have any idea, so I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT.
Give me a simple idea for a website I can code, which will have many users, be popular, in demand,
and make a lot of money. Oh wow, it's an AI-powered resume builder with job magic. I think that's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. That's what we need to do. So here's what our project is actually going to be. We're going to say,
I want to build an AI-powered resume builder with job magic.
Okay, so now what it's basically going to do is go through and just imagine all of the things that we haven't thought about. Haven't thought about site security. Haven't planned our tech stack. We haven't really thought out all of the user interfaces. We haven't thought about design, CSS. What's it going to look like? What's our marketing? What's even the name of this project? Period. And all of these things are really important. And if you were to just start saying, "Oh, build me a website," it's going to start to go off, and it might not be going off in the right direction. So if you're going to build a house, for example, you need to have a plan. Otherwise, which way the bathroom door in your house opens is an afterthought. It opens like this way, but the closet door opens like that way, and they smack into each other. So you got to tear them down and rebuild them the other direction. But actually, you realize you can't because the electrical's in the way. And you see it gets all convoluted and start to like eat yourself alive, and you basically just abandon your project. So you really, really want to do it this way. You want to have a plan before you do any code at all. You want to have a full plan. We're going to do tech stack, design. We're going to do all of our thought of like UI features, all of like the actual experience of the website, how it's going to be, security features. If we have a database like our SQL schema, all that needs to be done ahead of time before you code anything. Because the other thing that Cursor can't do is it can't read your database. That is really bad. That's where things get like very convoluted. It can't actually like live match your database, and then it sort of falls out of sync with the schema. and you have like all these little different SQL files where everything's a patch to another patch, and it just gets crazy. So let's look at what it actually spit out for me here. Okay, so it's starting to come up with a plan. I'd love to help you plan this. Well, thanks so much. I'd love to build it. Core functionality and user experience. Okay, target audience. I mean, these are all great questions, and actually, real business advice, if you were going to come up with something, you should actually probably go through Google Trends, market analytics. I would honestly scroll TikTok for an hour. Get out of here, fly. I would scroll TikTok for an hour and just see what the hell is trending. Um, and these, because you don't want to spend all this time and all this energy building a product that nobody wants. Okay, if you've done that once, you can. It's kind of heartbreaking. You have to just abandon what you've done. But this is basically it. So okay, so target audience, who are your primary users? Well, we have like a lot of users. Like basically everyone needs a job. Hopefully, jobs aren't totally gone, and people still need them. Setup process. How detailed should the guided setup be? What are you thinking? Basic info, detailed work history. Okay, so it's giving us all these things, and we'll start to go through. I'm going to go through these one by one and start to answer some questions, and then I'll check in with you guys in just a second when we get more of a complete picture. Okay, so it's asked me plenty of questions here, and I'm going to go through and kind of just touch on them really quickly. So, it asks about target audience. It's a great question. Recent graduates, career changers, experienced professionals, etc. Setup process. How are they going to do this? I imagine this. Just coming up with his thoughts in my head that it's something like a type form. You guys probably use a type form where it's basically the whole screen just asks you one thing, like what's your name? Bing, put it in. My name's Peter. Okay, you press enter, you go to the next screen. What's your last name? And it makes it like a really simple way to collect a lot of information fast because it really just asks you for one thing at a time. So that's kind of like what I was thinking. The AI is basically, we're just gonna, keeping this very simple. We're gonna use the OpenAI API to generate basically a web document or it's either going to be a Word document or a PDF or maybe both. You notice how this is so much information and we didn't even do like one of the most important parts. It's like, well, how are they going to pay you? Okay. We haven't defined a database schema, an SQL schema. That I think is one of the most important things. Then we also haven't touched upon any security features at all of the website. Like how is this? We're going to make sure that we have like row level security in our database, like we should. You don't want someone to go in and just like steal someone else's information or plagiarize or things like that. And you see with all of these questions that it asked, we're still missing all those things. What's the website? What's the color scheme of the website? We could just like let it, decide for us. Which probably will. I like black and white apps, to be honest. I don't like things to be like crazy, like colors. The older I get and the more experience I have with this. But you see that I'm going to basically, at the end, I say, okay, let's determine our tech stack next. Don't code anything. Still don't code anything. Okay, so bang. Let's see what it says. Okay, here's the tech stack. Okay, Next.js. I love Next.js lately. I've been using that for everything. I think that's one of the best things to do, especially if you're going to integrate with different types of automations. Database. Okay, Supabase. That's great. Supabase is you get a lot of data for free. And it's very easy to use and kind of like intuitive, and it's clean and it works perfect. Now we're starting to have like a complete picture. We still haven't coded anything yet. We coded and then we came back to these things as like an afterthought. It wouldn't be great. We're going to deploy on Versal. I love to use Versal. That's really good. And then GitHub for version control. Okay, that's great. So MVP development, I basically said, hey, let's get an MVP up in 1 week. I think you could even do it faster. If I was just going to sit here and pound coffee all day, I probably have something up by the end of the day. The other thing that we haven't figured out yet is what is even the name of our project, and I think like these things are so important. Like don't code anything until you have everything else, security, your database, your design considerations. What about customer onboarding? Right? Customer onboarding so important because if they make a free account, like are they able to like upgrade their plan easily or downgrade it or pause for a month? You know, all these things are things you need to think about. Just jumping in code, it's going to be hectic, it's going to be crazy. You're going to try and touch it up later, and it's going to be a disaster. So I'm going to look at everything that this says, and I'm going to keep going through, and I'm going to keep asking questions. I'll probably do this like 10 or 20 times till I really feel like I've got something solid. I have like all my questions answered, and then we're going to move on from there, just like that. So stay tuned. One more thing, I'm doing this kind of concurrently while using ChatGPT, but what I'm going to do to determine the name for my project is I'm just going to ask it, what should I name my resume builder? How can I use things like Google Trends to determine something that will resonate with my customers? You don't want to come up with some just goofy name that you think is cool, like, oh, I think this is a good name. No, actually, what I want to do is come up with something that's a good name for my customers that resonates with them. It doesn't matter what the hell I think. Really doesn't matter what the hell I think. You want a lot of users. You need to use things like Google Trends. You need to like go on TikTok. You need to uh, do market research before you come up with something. So maybe it will give us some ideas on what to do and like how to do that. So it gives us a couple different suggestions. Okay, exploding topics. That's a great one. I haven't heard of these other ones. Answer the public, group suggests, keyword tool. Some of those are probably good. Exploding topics is actually a great one, so I'll probably use that. Okay, here, Reddit, right? Search relevant subreddits. And these are all great considerations, man. You must do this because anyone can build a resume builder. Anyone can do it. This is so easy. This is just I'm just typing to the computer and it's just making the website for me. So market research is so much more important than the tech. The barrier to entry with tech is obliterated. Anyone can do it. Somebody called me up the other day. I used to teach Jitsu with. Has literally no tech background. Smart person has no tech background. They're doing all sorts of things with programming. So this is what's going to give you the edge. Market research. Make sure people want it. Make sure it resonates with your audience. Look at all these other tools. It's a Spark Toro. I've never even heard of these. But I am going to implement some of these. There's other tools, and I'm going to come up with a name, and I'll get back to you guys. Okay, after all of my research and everything that I looked up about exploding topics and Google Trends, this is what I came up with: YourHired.ai. I think that's a perfect name. That's like the goal intent. That's what we want people to have. The outcome. That's the outcome we want for them. You are hired. You got a new job. You got a dream job. You are hired. And so that's what I'm going to do. So it turns out this is available. I almost can't believe that nobody came up with this. So I am going to I'm actually going to buy this domain because these domains are a commodity. You never know. Someone else comes around, they build a better app. They want your hired.ai. And it's just a good one. So this is a little investment here I'm going to make. Let's do it right now. Very important at the bottom here. I said, let's determine the SQL schema for this build and an ENV definition list for our alignment and use. Again, don't code yet, just plan. And then this is really important because your AI agent in Cursor is not going to be able to see your SQL schema. So if you start to like add things later, it's going to like lose track of it. You start to see here, things like follow profiles, descriptions, resumes, things like this. And then also your AI agent cannot see an ENV set up that way on purpose. The ENV are secrets. So you want to really define how you're actually going to um, use that going forward so that it is not in the dark and starts just making up environment variables on the spot, because then your whole code won't work and you'll be sitting there like wondering why. Determine a full security plan for the entire website. Consider row level security, secrets, admin passwords, admin impersonation, to view user accounts. What else? What else? Password rotation. That's important. rate limiting, APIs, and anything else I haven't considered for a production build. It's important that you say that it's a production build so that it's not just, because I did say this is an MVP, and then I basically want to make sure that I'm actually going through and getting a real build, and it's not just like half-assed, like baking something. I think we're at the end, so we've determined like what our app's actually gonna do, its features, its design. We've determined the SQL schema, our environment variables. Maybe I think the last thing is determine a full onboarding plan for users on all package tiers. So it gave me a kind of like an onboarding sequence, account creation, plan selection, personalization, and all your input data, your professional summary, uploading resume, things like that. And so this looks good. This is basically everything that we need. And now what I'm going to do is just ask it a general vague question. Is there any other considerations we need before we begin to code? Analytics, that's great. I really like Hotjar actually, kind of like determine like user behavior. Google Analytics, didn't think about that. Okay, email infrastructure, yep, completely forgot it. That's good. AI prompt engineering strategy. Okay, right. So we're gonna have to prompt our AI to do it. Last thing I'll do right here before we leave is I'm answering its final questions and kind of like picking out some email accounts, things like that. Like I use resend for emails, or giving it some other tips. Right term service and privacy policy. These are things I've completely forgotten, but they're important. It's going to write it great because it knows exactly how we're storing our data, customer data, and things like that. This is the important part. This is where we've been going with all of this. Take everything we've mentioned and use it to create a comprehensive README in the new directory, which will be our source of truth for the entire build. That's what maintains alignment between me as a human being and the machine who's building this out. So I'm going to go ahead and click enter, and I'll just say like begin the build. Have like 8 minutes left before this coffee shop closes, and let's see what it does. So our AI agent has completely finished setting up the project, installing dependencies, everything, and we have this comprehensive README, which we're basically going to use as a source of truth for the rest of our build, so we don't lose alignment between our environment variables, between our SQL, so that we have everything documented here, exactly what we're going to do. Like infrastructure security. Here's our core tables for the SQL. Everything's defined nicely. Even things like color scheme, the onboarding flow, everything. And it's all set up and it's all in here in our README. So that's why we were doing so much with our prompt earlier. You notice now I've moved the prompt completely to the side. Now we're really focusing on the code here. It's actually created an initial landing page here, so we're going to have our kind of like our roadmap with our MVP testing approach, the business model, support documentation, we created terms of service, privacy policy. So that's why I do it this way. So we actually have a plan and a foundation. Let's take a look at our app. Here it is, yourhired.ai, AI-powered resume builder that gets you hired. Bang. We have our sign in, get started, everything. And it's very minimal, like I said, but you know what? When you come to a page like this, and if you want to basically, put in your resume something to start building, you don't want to, have some sort of complex. You don't want it to be complex. You want it to be user friendly, clean, and easy. And I think that's really what we've achieved here. So I'm pretty happy with this. That's my take on how you guys should go and use Cursor. That's context engineering, as far as I'm concerned. I hope you learned something. I might build out this full app. Let me know. Do you guys like this? Would you guys use an app like this?